Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be going over some tips and tricks you can use while coding, which will make it easier to avoid some common mistakes. So first, make sure you are in the Group by Pattern tab. This will prove to be helpful to find your respective question. But also, the Group by Pattern tab has this helpful button right here, Add Smart Translations. What this does is it takes your first translation, the one that you input in manually, and it remembers that. And it applies to all of the similar questions where the only thing different is the numbers. Once it recognizes that pattern, it saves a lot of time for you, the inputter, so you can move on to a different question. However, this button is extremely buggy, meaning sometimes it may smart translate only, for example, like 7 of the 15 problems in total. If that happens, that's on the computer, it's not on you, and unfortunately, you may have to manually input the rest yourselves, or you can ask one of your team members to help you. Next, make sure you are pressing save. A lot of times we're so tired after spending a lot of time making sure the coding is correct and the question makes sense that we forget to save our progress. Don't let this happen to you. Don't let all of your hard work go to waste. Remember to press save so the computer will mark it officially as done. Sometimes when you save a question, like what I'm doing right now, the website will give you an error message saying that the original question's code doesn't match the translated version. Don't panic if this happens, it's really common, and just read what the message is trying to tell you. Often it'll be something super trivial, like a missing line, for example, like in this case, it's a missing line, that may not seem that important to us humans, but is super important to the computer. Other times, it may be something a little bit more complicated, like a whole line of code missing. Try your best to interpret that message, but if it's really confusing and you have no clue what it's trying to tell you, feel free to ask your team leader. Also, when you're actually translating the question, take some time to figure out if the question makes sense or not. Keep in mind that for certain questions, you may have to flip the numbers around in the Dummer version so that the question makes sense. So for example, in this problem right here, the English version, as you can see, says 9 groups of 5, but the Dummer version here actually translates to 5 groups of 9, which happens to be the case for all of these problems. So just be cautious and double check that your translated question matches the meaning of the English version. This is just a general note. When you're coding in the question, make sure the numbers are matching between the English and the Dummer version. Since you're copying directly from the spreadsheet and there's different versions of the questions with different numbers, as you can see here, we may mistakenly put the incorrect numbers from the spreadsheet. So just double check that the numbers and the meaning match. So sometimes the patterns of the questions may be really similar to each other, and the only thing different are not the numbers this time, but the objects in the question. So for example, I have carrots and rows in this problem, and I have apples and baskets in this problem, but the overall structure of the two questions are the same. If this is the case, the spreadsheet may only contain the names of the different objects and not the entire sentence. So use the approved translation from the spreadsheet while substituting the different names. Sometimes the group by pattern section may miss some patterns, so scroll through the page in the Crowd Insight to make sure that the translated Dummer content is entered for all the matching lines, even if they're grouped under a different section or is placed under the miscellaneous section. So, for example, these questions, they're pretty much the same except this question has a couple of extra numbers. So make sure that the question you're assigned to, all those types of questions are translated. Click on Show Completed Translations, this link on the top, to view the problems that have already been entered. You can review them for completion as well as catch any missing patterns or catch any grammar mistakes. If there are mistranslations, the site will show how many words still need to be translated right here, up in the left corner. And once everything is translated, the screen should look like this.